right, hello and welcome to Divorcing Dilemmas. This is your first time watching one of our videos. My name is Amanda Porter. I'm the family law attorney. And with us today, we have Dan Brown from DPB Legal. And he is going to be talking to us about the intersection of immigration and divorce, because not everybody who gets divorced in the U.S. is a U.S. citizen. And so it can get a little bit more complicated then. And so that's a concern for some people when they're not citizens. So Dan is going to kind of give us some education on what that looks like. And then certainly if you have more in-depth questions, I would encourage you to contact Dan for more information about that. So Dan, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, great. So nice for you to join us today. So there are kind of two main issues that I see in my court cases is sometimes you have people who are not documented, who maybe came here without this documentation and have concerns about that. And then there are people who moved to the U.S. who are documented, but were allowed to because of a marriage to a U.S. citizen. So those are two different issues, which I'm assuming have two different pathways. Is that correct?
Generally correct, yes. I see people that came in here without inspection, and then there are people who came in here with inspection. That is that they actually had some sort of a visa or permission to be here in the first place. And then both of those groups go to different results or have different paths available to them.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So if somebody came in without inspection, either when they were married or before possibly, and are now getting divorced, what are some of the things that they possibly need to be worried about or thinking about?
Primarily, I think they need to be thinking about removal. So if they're in the process of dissolution, and they no longer have access to a green card or a potential for a green card through a U.S. citizen, their primary concern is going to be removal. So in a situation in which a couple is amicable but thinking about divorce, I would encourage them to consider going through the process of at least trying to get a green card for the non-U.S. citizen spouse before they completed the dissolution process.
Okay, great. That's a good idea so that they can try to get some of that status before divorcing, because after they divorce, is it much harder than for people to be able to do that, I'm guessing?
It's generally much harder. There's an area in which if a couple is just in the process of getting a green card and they've satisfied the criteria of having come in with inspection, there's a 2-year window in which they have to prove that their relationship is still valid. So if they've gone through the first part and they've gotten a probationary green card and they're moving towards that 2-year anniversary, but now they're thinking about divorce, then they're going to want to be able to justify the fact that their marriage was legitimate in the first place. Those people, if they get divorced, they may still be able to have that path to the green card, but I definitely would encourage them to come in and talk with an immigration attorney about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's one of the keys is to try talking to people before you go ahead and do something. Because I know that is a concern for a lot of people who came, were married, did everything by the book, and are now getting divorced. And the concern is, is immigration going to look at this as a fake marriage or a marriage that was just for a green card? Are there some criteria that they tend to look at for that you can kind of overview?
Absolutely. So when CIS, United States Citizen and Immigration Services, is looking at the validity of a marriage, they're going to be looking at how the couple has wound themselves together with each other. So do they have joint bank accounts? Do they have joint insurance? Do they own a house together or do they lease together? Do they have children together? So the more ties they have to one another, the more likely it is that that couple is going to be able to prove that they have a legitimate marriage.
Okay, awesome. So in other words, getting a divorce doesn't necessarily prove that your marriage wasn't valid to begin with. I mean, obviously a lot of people get divorced without any sort of citizenship issues, but you just want to be conscious of how that's going to appear. And again, it sounds like one of the big critical things is to talk to an immigration attorney, whether that's you or somebody else, as soon as they possibly can. Is that?
That's absolutely correct, Amanda.
All right, awesome. Is there anything else that you wanted to add about immigration and divorce that people should be aware of or thinking about?
One thing I'd like to just touch on very quickly is that if someone comes in here undocumented or without inspection, there may be a very limited recourse to try and get a green card, but it requires extreme hardship. And extreme hardship is more than just economic hardship. It's that the foreign nationals required to care for a very sick child or someone with autism or cancer. But extreme hardship is an undefined area that really just has to be beefed up in order to try and make a person fit into that category. So definitely recommend, if people are undocumented and came in without inspection, to talk to an immigration attorney.
Okay, so speak to them, see if there's anything that can be done. And generally speaking, I know one of the fears sometimes is being deported. If they are here and they're not supposed to be, and maybe it's not going to be possible, they don't have that extreme hardship to show. Generally speaking, if you're going through the divorce process, is that something the family courts are going to be reporting? Have you had any experience with that either way?
That's an excellent question. So family courts generally do not report anything to immigration. So a person, just in general, I mean, should never fear going through family court or even most state courts and being reported to federal authorities. The connection point is generally if a person gets into jail. So if a person is jail or finds himself in criminal custody, then there's a communication generally between the police department or the sheriff's department and immigration, and that person might find a hold being placed on themselves.
Okay, so but they don't generally, and obviously there's never guarantees, but generally speaking, they don't need to be terrified of going to family court or other civil type courts. It's more of they being arrested and being in the criminal process.
That's exactly right, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, great. Excuse me. Thank you so much, Dan. I know this is a big area of anxiety for people when they're getting divorced and they aren't U.S. citizens. And so just having a little bit more information is very helpful. So if this is a situation that you find yourself in, or maybe your spouse is in and you want to get divorced, to have them deported or anything, definitely contact Dan, depending on which medium you're watching this in. His information is either below the video or to the sides. And so you can reach out to him and get a lot more personalized information about your situation and how the best way to proceed is. So thanks so much for being here today, Dan.
Thank you, Amanda. My pleasure.